It's tape number 5, Apollo 13 Technical Debriefing, starting with item number 19, Mission Control. Tape is classified confidential.
Okay, mission control, go-no-goes, updates, consumables. I guess we can't give them enough praise for what they've done, and they're up at all times with consumables, especially after the accident and limb consumables. They are kept a pretty handy eye on our consumables. Real-time changes were exercised to the utmost, and we had a tremendous amount of real-time changes, and I think they're handled very adequately. Anything else so far for that? Communications were in general very good, especially on the limb communications. I thought were good.
Yep, Mike, that was good.
Training. Why don't you talk about the CMS, Jack? Because availability, you might have a since you didn't have priority for most of the training periods.
Well, I can't fault the training. I thought the training that the backup crew got was just about par for the time involved. I think that's just about the way it. Can't see anything. Ken and I split the simulator time, and pretty much until right at the last there. I think I think that's just about the way it should go.
You might comment on your reaction to having to replace Ken at the last moment, and what you think of it. You know about it earlier.
Well, of course, the earlier you know about it, the better off you are. I mean, we could have used maybe a session or two together in some of the areas that we didn't have. But of course, I had worked with you in one rendezvous before a little bit, and I didn't have any misgivings at all about working with you. And I had felt that I think I told Deke and I told you that we might suffer a little bit on the lunar orbit activities. And this was a low priority item, so I had no qualms at all about being prepared to go and do the job.
I think that the story here is the fact that if we have a backup crew and a prime crew, we can replace a prime member with a backup member if he's had the background training that Jack's had. Jack was knowledgeable in the command module to start out with, working on the malfunction procedures. He had a lot of good simulator training, mainly because at that stage of the game in our training, the simulator was available that we could give him a good 50% of the time up till the last maybe 3 weeks of training. In a case where somebody comes aboard fresh caught and becomes a CMP right away, then you're going to have to reanalyze exactly how much simulator training he's had and what his background has been, what he's been doing as a side job. If he's been looking at the plisses all the time or something like that, maybe that would be good. But because we had no problem, even with the minimum amount of training we had, meshing in as a good team. And as a matter of fact, we were timeline-wise and flight plan-wise, we were going right ahead of the game, and so I had no problems at all. Yeah, I think it was a good decision we made to go on April. Okay, Lem?
I guess part of the thing we're supposed to discuss here in the CMS LMS was the fidelity of the simulator, and I've already broken it out in pieces, so I guess I won't discuss them again in the CMS. I mentioned the voltage fuel cell flow relationship with the gimbal motors and the battery not regaining its voltage as quickly after having the main bus ties on. On the LMS side, I'd say the thruster noises in the LMS are Generally speaking, at their normal level, the headfurs and they're unsuited are not quite as loud as they really are in the limb itself. When those things pop, they really pop, particularly when the forward quads that are right outside the windows there, they really bang. Of course, the big thing that is really missing in the LMS, and I don't, from a training standpoint, I don't consider it pertinent at all. But in real life, it's something you have to get used to. In fact, it bothered Jack because he had never been in a limb before, I guess, maybe when all that was running. But with the glycol pumps running and the suit fans running, they make horrible screeching noises in the limb.
And they change frequency.
Yeah, they change frequency. They gurgle. The way that the fluid, I assume, goes from turbulent to non-turbulent, and it just doesn't sound like it's acting right well. If that's just the way limbs sound, and they work pretty well.
In fact,
Sounding that way.
Fred told me, he says, anytime you don't hear these changes, there's something wrong.
So I really not knocking the LMS for that reason, but that was a distinction in the what noise you hear, and that's fairly high level noise too.
Yes.
Something you have to get used to. Again, I've slept many hours and tested limbs with all that stuff running, so it didn't bother me maybe as much for sleeping.
If you duplicate the noise, I would suggest that you have it such that you can turn it on or turn that particular noise off.
It should be in with the normal audio system. Otherwise, the only other funny I noticed on the limb side was that one spiking, very quick spiking of the RCS pressure when we fired jets. Everything else seemed quite high fidelity. The thing, of course, we're doing things that the configuration of command module limb we had never looked at in the limb, so I don't know LMS, so I don't have any idea what to compare is there. I thought the flying of the limb stack, the way we did with the translation controllers, was easier for pure pitch and pure roll in the real life than it is in the LMS. For doing the burns like.
Yeah, it was easy to do the burns that way.
Yeah.
One thing I think that we can improve on the CMS and the LMS is using the planet bodies for alignments. That's one thing which we didn't do adequately enough using unit vectors, and we don't have the simulation set up where we can get accurate bodies.
You can't. The CMS is limited. That you cannot do planet alignments, sun alignments. You can't make calibrations only on selected optics calibrations only on selected stars, so that you can't do, like I couldn't go down and do a set of P23s because I can't make invariably is only by coincidence that the optics calibration star is one of the stars that you can perform an optics calibration on in the CMS. Also, you cannot get into the sextant any of the stars that are non-Apollo stars. And of course, all of our P23s had one or two non-Apollo stars in the CMS.
See, I assume we're supposed to talk next in conjunction with the integrated and simulated network about corresponding to real life.
Just your evaluation of how good the simulation was, yeah.
First category between the two machines themselves, and the second one.
The second one,
worked
sim,
with
that
mission
sims.
control.
Well, as far as I can see, we had the simulation and the actual operations to what we were doing were excellent. We of course never experienced the, we never experienced the amount of work we're going to do with mission control after the accident, and that was all new. But there's nothing will ever substitute these two items right here. CMS, LMS, integrated simulations, in that area where we had to have simulated operations. And of course, we never got to see that because we were never undocked. And the other thing we were integrating was trying to get power to one vehicle from the other one and things like that. But network simulations, and from past experience, and even from this one, is the fact that this is really required. And that's the best type of simulation work you can get, because you get, if nothing else, it gets you to talk to the guys and how you work back and forth. And also, I thought the Capcoms were damn good. They were good stuff.
I bet you were.
Okay, DCPS.
Notice, Deke, I very quickly decided not to ask if the board had approved that. Remember we talked about that?
I thought about that a couple times. But
The board had approved what?
procedure changes.
I surrender.
No, Tom Stafford told me they were reconvening the CPCB.
No, I sat right there at that console about 95% of the time, and nothing went up till we had signed off.
I can see it now. A continuing board meeting.
It was a constant board meeting.
DCPS was adequate, very good. As a matter of fact, the boost phase was just like our SIMs and just like a lot of the DCPS work. LMPS, never really got a chance to evaluate that in this particular.
Way back when.
And we never got the rendezvous, so we never got a chance to use that. CPS, I'm probably sure the same way, right?
Well, no, I got quite a few hours in the CMPS. I had,
But for what, for entries?
oh, for entries?
Well, see, CMPS, like the LMPS is rendezvous, I don't know if that's what you know.
That's what we use it for too.
See,
I got, I got 100 and some odd hours in that thing for
How do you
rendezvous.
compare that with the rendezvous you did?
Yeah.
Of course, it's just once with the rendezvous.
How was it compared to the one we did?
Yeah.
I can't.
That's why we said we can't talk too much about the LMPS.
Yeah. No.
Centrifuge. Did you get a chance to run the centrifuge and the entries?
Yes, I did. And of course, I didn't do any GNN entries in the centrifuge. I did EMS entries, and I felt that the guidance was comparable. You know, at the G level, it seemed to respond. Of course, it was maybe a year ago that I did this, but the control input seemed to increase the G, much like I saw bank inputs increase and decrease the G in the during entry here.
Do you think it's necessary? I guess is the real question.
Yeah, Deke, I thought it was, you're used to 0 G. So 1 and 2 Gs seems like a lot more than 1 and, you think that you could take 1 or 2 transverse Gs and no sweat at all. But after 0 G, 1 or 2 transverse Gs is a significant amount. And I think it'd be good to have a guy fly a centrifuge entry and be able to take over and do it manually.
We're in a training cycle to do it.
I do it further along, I'd say a month or 2 prior to launch. So, and just once is all.
Yeah, if I was going to fly a re-entry, I think I'd want the centrifuge run, just to see how I could do it EMS-wise.
Yeah.
For a GNN re-entry, the simulator itself is good enough, because
Yeah.
it's doing the work and you're just sitting there monitoring. But to do an EMS entry, I'd like to do it.
Well, I had a number of hours in an entry simulator over there where they put all sorts of failure in. I didn't have any problem recognizing the failures and taking over and steering, and no problem at all. But I felt that if I had to compare the real world, if I had to take over that entry the other day, I felt that it would be much more difficult to do it under a G load. And so I think one centrifuge run would be a worthwhile thing.
Okay. TDS is no longer here, and we never used it anyway, and I kind of agree with you that I don't think it was really required, but of course I can't really say.
We used the TDS on the command module side, where we went in and put command module moments of inertia in and maneuvered. And I did it once, and I in order to see whether it was worthwhile, and I don't think it's worthwhile.
That's good, because we haven't got it.
Yeah. North American Evaluator and the GAEC, the government
FEMS.
FEMS, I never used either of them.
I used the North American Evaluator
Not in
fairly
this training cycle, I never used either of them.
extensively.
I used FIMS right at the end of 11.
And it was interesting in that you could run some of the actual programs, some of the ropes.
We used FEMS only to check out our new Auto 66, and someone else did the checking out, which I think is the only way you can really do it. I don't think it's worthwhile going up there.
Something nice to do if you can't get to a simulator.
Egress training, I think, is required, I mean, for people going through the regular training cycle, because it's exactly like you're gonna see it anyway. And you ought to leave it in there, and we had no problems with that.
I'll tell you, I guess, that pad egress training, I guess I when we went up there, John and I and Charlie, and, you know, I had tongue-in-cheek as to whether it was worthwhile. But I'm damn glad I did when we got up there for real, you know, because I knew where to go if we had any problems getting off this thing, and I'm damn glad I did. I think if you're going to replace a backup crew like that, they ought to go through it.
Yeah, because you never can replace that stuff after, once you make a decision to change. It's best left late in the game. Spacecraft fire training. We had fire training on 8. I don't
Begin on 11.
I had it on
We didn't
11,
do it this time.
but we didn't do it this time. And,
You, I think Jack got it somewhere.
I can't think, maybe it's good training.
Yeah, I had the
once
fire
around.
training.
Jack and Ken.
I did not have the Gulf egress training. I did have the tank training, and the
You didn't go out in the Gulf?
no.
Backup.
No wonder you stumbled over the sill. What are you kidding?
No, you had the frogman there, and he just says, when I get the net positioned, you leap in. So I leaped in, and up I went.
Okay.
And you
Well,
just
I
stay in
rescind
the
my discussion then.
you just stay in the net.
I guess I was under the impression that you guys had gotten that one. I didn't know you didn't.
Yeah.
Not that we'd have
They-
held up if you hadn't. But
They got it in the tank, but at the time we would have done it in the Gulf. It was interfering with some sims that seemed to be more important.
oh, that's right. That's right. You're right. We did recognize that was a deficiency.
John and Charlie already had golf training, didn't they? From
John
previous?
had, Charlie had not, but.
Charlie
again,
didn't have it either, right?
Okay. Well, in general, I think we want to keep scheduling it for backup crews anyway and try to get it in. We
Go.
did have a scheduling problem.
To me, I didn't feel like I was handicapped in any way because I hadn't had it.
I think that type of training is good to have just as general training, not so much for a particular flight. If you had it for a previous flight of some sort, it would carry over for the next
Yeah.
flight.
I agree.
We kind of got in a bind on that one because someone kept wanting to wait until the procedures were firm, quarantine or not. We
That's
ended up
right.
doing
We
it
got too
too late. And at that time, it would have taken them away from something that we considered more valuable, and they didn't do it.
Right.
Okay. Planetarium, I didn't utilize the planetarium on this go-around, mainly because I didn't think it was required.
I didn't utilize it either. I did visit the planetarium once for Apollo 11, and I didn't feel that I needed it this time.
I think we concluded a while back that our simulator visual was good enough or better than the planetarium combined.
That visual is, not only that, but it gives you exactly the field of view you're going to see on the stars.
I think it's good again for general training, but not specific mission.
I agree.
That stuff is for
Ken
people
did
that
go to
just-
Moorhead for a half a day, and just primarily to familiarize himself with the new stars that have obviously been needed.
MIT did brief us, and on the changes to our guidance systems, and mainly for Fred and I was the automatic landing program, which they had incorporated all the changes to it. And we had no MIT training up at MIT. We didn't use their simulator.
We did, Ken and I did once. We went to utilize they had a mock-up or simulator which would duplicate the
Horizon.
the Earth atmosphere layer.
Yeah.
And we could mark there and get an idea of what kilometer value you were using for your atmosphere layer.
I did that on 8. That was good for 8.
Yeah.
So you went there for 13.
Yeah. But I don't think I would make a special trip up there for that. I would combine it with something else if I were going to do it. It is not.
Well, you use that to compare with what you do in the flight.
Yes.
Then.
And I'd be interested to find out. I think that I'm about pretty near the actual value. I came out with 17 kilometers in flight. What strikes me is that I was using 19 kilometers up there at MIT. So it strikes me as pretty close.
Systems briefings. Fred?
No, I really didn't, on our side, we didn't go through any of the command modules. part at all.
We had deltas and the last minute changes in briefings and anomalies that came up in the last couple of months. We had those briefings.
But we did all, whatever we did, even on LIMSAT, was done way early. And,
Very little, and most of
6
it was
months
done
on.
on the simulator, the guy sitting there watching you.
yeah. We'd already been through that once in 11 and just wasn't particularly needed.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I needed, I did have some systems briefings and systems that I thought I could use a little bit on, but not very extensive.
Okay, topography training. We spent an extensive amount of time on topography. This is lunar topography. We
You really needed more.
yeah, there's two types of topography training. One was the area that we were going to land in, which we did a lot of work on, and then there was the area that we were going to fly around, which Ken did more work on, and Jack and Fred and I did. I still felt that I wasn't sufficiently qualified as the way I really wanted to be prior to the launch on orbital geology. There was something we had to cut out, and that was one of the things we did.
Never had the time
Yeah.
to get it done.
But Fred and I spent more time on learning about the landing site and learning the various little incidents about that thing.
The
So,
old cone crater, whatever happened to her.
and lunar surface training.
It'll still be there.
Now, there's two things I think that in lunar surface training that I think we did on 13, which I recommend. One thing especially, that was that we changed the geology training techniques, and I think it was basically based on Fred's input, to get more like what we would expect to do on the lunar surface. In other words, we used, the walkie-talkie radios, and we used the equipment, and we kept the timeline down to something that was like what we were going to do, and we learned to be observers and to discuss what we saw. And I think that the training part along this line has really taken a different curve towards what we're trying to get out of lunar geology. And I recommend that.
We allowed them to use only the same scale maps they have from
Yeah.
orbiter pictures on the moon. They laid out, in some cases, known traverses from a known starting point. Other times we played the game that we didn't know where we landed. And we built our own, reoriented ourselves on a map and built our own traverse, coordinating with the ground station. We operated with Capcoms and with span room people all the time.
And I'm only sorry we couldn't prove out whether it was adequate or not. But I think really, just based on the training, I thought that was
Well, this line item 1 here, you obviously can't compare that in retrospect, but what's your feeling about these different items, just based on your training experience?
I wish I went through the entire mission to give you a more adequate.
Yeah, I know.
The
Sorry to give you that
KC-135 I don't like. And
To me, it's the best fidelity 160 gadget we got. I assume still 102. Pogos, the main usefulness of them was to me to develop the kind of lope running technique that but even it was distorted somewhat. I was working a lot harder there than I was in the airplane doing the same kind of task.
Did you try both the truck mounted and the centrifuge one?
Yes, sir, but the truck, half of each lap, I was running out there with about a 30-25 knot crosswind or something. That was when I was downwind of the truck. Yeah.
Dr. Jordan, the fittings ready for you.
Okay. We're just about done. When we're about, one leg was completely distorted, but the leg where I was shielded by the truck, I felt that was quite comparable to the centrifuge rig. And both of them, to me, though, were still distorting a little bit my balance. And of course, the things I was lugging around playing like I was carrying were 1G weight, not 1/6, and my limbs were 1G and not 1/6. I was my heart rate was also saying the same story. It was for doing about 4 foot per second. It was costing me about 140 heart rate on the airplane. I know I got going faster than that, and I bet I could have gone all day without getting above 110.
Okay.
The whiff, we never even looked at for 160.
Now, we use the whip only for the EVT transfer.
You tried it once on 11.
Yeah, and that was a complete waste. I
Oh,
never
yeah,
got
11,
never got
sorry.
ballasted
Yeah,
for
That's the
160.
reason we didn't do it this time.
Yeah. 1G walkthroughs, is this the EVA you're talking about? Well, again, we can't prove it, but it seems to me that I'm sure that using those pressure suits and doing that stuff was the best training in the world, even though it was so horrible. That type of training really is so much, probably according to Pete and Neil, more difficult than the actual case, that it makes things easy for you. But I highly recommend that, and just to get yourself in condition. Field trips. Well, we try to limit the field trips this time to ones we thought were profitable. And early in our training, we went out to California, and I thought that was profitable only in the fact that it trained us as observers. In other words, that was the purpose of that trip. The Hawaiian trip then was training us more or less an operation timeline and looking for things that we thought were peculiar to the lunar surface and the phenomena that we should expect on the lunar surface. And although I really didn't think too much of it before we went, I thought the last trip out to Flagstaff was very good. The one that
We had one to Kilburn Hole too.
yeah, I thought of the four of California and the Oracopa Mountains, Hawaii, Kilburn Hole, and Flagstaff. Well, the Kilburn Hole was the least productive. But the one at Flagstaff the last time, when they gave us the lunar map,
Yeah.
that was degraded purposely the same way that our maps were degraded, and they blew these holes, and they showed us this reverse stratigraphy like they'd show us the lunar surface would probably be like, and they gave us what an actual size crater would be like standing near one, then showing what it looked like on the map that we had. We could compare that with Frau Mauer region and get some idea what the crater size would be like. That was good training. That was real down to earth good training.
Down to earth.
Another level is there you go.
We had a few of those on the flight.
If we don't have any problems, everything will be okay.
That's what I told Dr. Fain before the flight.
Okay.
I think Deke, we had another one when Deke asked me, how are we sleeping? I said we're sleeping as well as could be expected under these normal situations, something like that. As normally could be expected.
Cecil.
Fredo broke up.
Cecil, I think, is training that you should have only as a confidence check, if nothing else, on your equipment. And I recommend that we just keep that in. It gives you
You're
an
aware that we
edge.
dropped it out.
Pardon?
You're aware that we've dropped it out in the future.
No, I wasn't.
We're closing the Cecil down as a budgetary measure.
Is there any place that we can use
We're
it?
going to use a 10-foot chamber. Tom's supposed to give
Okay.
E&D some guidance on things we'd like to update there to make it. We think we can train good enough on the.
Well,
It's the same chamber we
10
used
foot.
before in the preliminary runs, you mean? Small one.
yeah, it's the one we use generally.
Yeah.
Well, my point here on the Cecil runs is that it gives you confidence that your PLIS and your OPS and everything is working right, and that you can actually do stuff in a vacuum. And that
You can do the same
Yeah.
thing on the other chamber.
Yeah.
We just don't have the thermal effects.
That's why in Gemini I was so adamant the fact that we ought to have altitude chamber runs before we go.
I just want to make clear you understood. If you had any strong feelings, you ought to express it.
Well, but I guess what you're saying is the Cecil also gave you the thermal environment,
That's
and
right.
and I think we've already proved the thermal environment.
Right.
So I don't think there was any problems there.
Okay.
But we do need chamber testing and chamber
Right.
training.
You'll still be able to get your nominal bliss operation and all that sort of thing that you got in the air, in the manlock over there, you'll be able to do in the 8-foot chamber.
Yeah.
You can do it easier in the 8-foot. See, we had that on 11. We didn't have it this time. And they were used to running off nominals. They weren't Cecil. It took a little in-house training to get them to allow you to do anything very off nominal.
Okay, let's see, briefings.
Okay, we're talking about that.
Yeah, it's not, every time we want a briefing, people are more than happy to respond, and we had to just work our briefings in with their simulator training, so in most cases, the guys ended up sitting around for an hour or so waiting for us. Contingency EVA training,
We only have one session of that.
I guess it wasn't as adequate. If I had to go out by myself on a one-man training, it was going to be a little talk through. I did look and see how to deploy the ALSEP all by myself. I looked how the drill operated, but I wasn't really proficient at it. There was going to have to be a lot of talk through.
This is primarily the transfer from the LM to the CSM if you didn't get docked. That's
Oh,
Okay.
oh, that. Well,
Did it whiff and
We did
one
whiff
G
and
walk
one
through.
G.
yeah, we did the whiff, and my feelings were that if we ever got faced with that we were in deep trouble. And as a matter of fact, we came up with a new technique. What was it that, remember that?
Well, a new technique.
No, but how was it that we got stuck, that we couldn't pressurize the LEM, was that it?
There's several ways to go. You can go through the tunnel or you can go outside. All we determined was that we couldn't make it through the tunnel.
No, but what we were trying to determine was the fact that we wanted to use the plisses from the lunar surface. Remember, we wanted to keep the plisses on instead of taking them off, and it was the training we had, the continuity training.
Hold on. We never had a pliss on in the water tank.
No.
should be OPS.
Yeah, but you're not with me. Remember, late in the game, we were talking about using plisses with John down at the Cape in the 1G mock-up. And I'm trying to see what the situation was that set us up to made us use that. We said, instead of taking the pliss off and putting the OPS on...
No, we never did any training for that, did you?
Well,
I mean, that was some idle conversation one day, and I think it was because the hatch jammed and wouldn't seal. So we're stuck in there, and we can't pressurize the LEM cabin.
yeah, but the normal thing was to get rid of the pliss.
Yeah. Go vacuum, demate.
Yeah, and I think that would be much better off to leave the plisses on and do the EVT with the plisses, because you'd have communication and you wouldn't have to do all that vacuum demating and mating and getting all that stuff squared away.
Question was, while you're standing there with it, you never get to even the 1G on the ascent stage. And then just lurch off with the pliss on your back. Go into orbit that way.
Depends entirely on what your failure mode is. In that case, if you get docked, you're going to repress from the CSM. You're back to normal anyway.
Well, we were looking at the
No,
case
we're
where you
looking at
could.
no LEM
See,
pressurization.
no LEM pressurization. We had to go, and we couldn't go through the tunnel, so we had to go exterior. And we thought that we could even recharge our plisses with the LEM system, under a vacuum condition, better than we could take off our plisses and put on the OPSs, pressurized. And we were willing to go just launch with the plisses on our back and transfer that way, because we'd have communications, we'd have everything. And long time on the, long time, 4 hours, something like that, recharge the plisses. Okay. That was the only change we had there. Mock-ups and stowage training equipment. My training suit is just about gone. In fact, I think they put it in the junk pile. Let's see. But all this stuff is adequate, I think you're saying. Photography and camera training equipment. Well, we're a little late getting the Hycon camera, and I really felt like I could use more time on that, although Ken knew it pretty good.
Yeah, I had a good briefing on a Hycon camera, so I didn't have any qualms about setting it up and working.
We were in good shape on the LEM set, I think, all along.
Yeah, we had the lunar surface camera soon enough. We could practice with that. And lunar surface experiment training, the equipment on that is getting pretty poor, Deke. And we're going to have to start replacing. Yeah, it's worn out. We're going to have to start replacing that.
Now, a good part of that is replaced just by it being another ALSEP package, Jim, if that's what you're thinking of. There aren't any more ALSEPs like that one.
There will be a new one coming along for 14.
Yeah,
Yours
another
was-
different one.
yours was
Different
shot in
experiments.
Okay, well, whatever we had was the cameras were shot
Shot.
too.
Yeah.
I mean, all that stuff is pretty well
We
shot.
just brought them two back.
Yeah.
And we kind of quietly didn't push the backup crew that last couple of weeks because we didn't want to wear that stuff out before your last EVA.
Okay, we'll review that whole subject, though.
Yeah.
That's a good comment.
There's lunar landing. Well, we can't even talk about that.
Yeah, I have one other thing now. It isn't listed as an item. Again, going back to that TV. I felt by virtue of our picking up the old 12 surface camera and having it to use a few times in conjunction with our surface EVA exercises, that the live TV was pretty well integrated to the lunar quarry operation. But something we never had looked at. Again, they give you a mock-up, but the mock-up in the command module doesn't even have the things that turn to force you to set an f-stop or force you to set a range or a zoom in or out. And you just kind of fake that. And you know, when at times we played games in the CMS, normally I'd get the mock-up out and I'd stuff it in the bracket behind my head and stick it out the window and I'd forget about it. And we'd press on about our business. And then all at once it came that day, and things were a little different. I now had to I couldn't stick it in the bracket to begin with. I had to hand hold it because you just couldn't let it show straight out. You had to either hunch back or move forward to get the right picture you wanted. And it was a game of focusing, and then you also had to be the Walter Cronkcase on the other end of it, trying to be part of the time and trying to tell what the hell you were supposedly looking at while you were doing the other job with the other hand. And
This is CSM specifically.
yes, sir. And that was, to me, one thing that if you want to consider that an item that should be trained for too, that again we weren't there.
Training model, but command module can't do something like that.
Now, if the mock-up in the CMS could be even made so I think the end piece of it there, the things turn and make a guy set f-stops and think about it and ranges without necessarily giving him a picture, because they ain't going to get much of a picture to look at out the CMS window anyway.
Yep.
That would add just another order of fidelity to it, that he can play the game a little more realer, make up his picture if he wants to verbally. And
Excuse me. That off the tape.
Okay, let's see. Finish this up, we'll skip the LLTV because we have no comparison. Planning of training and training program. Yeah, it was packed, but quite adequate. A lot of attention was brought to it.
No, I think we did some unique things during this flight that hadn't been done before, and that we asked the simulator people, both here and at the Cape, to lay out a training program so that we could accomplish, as far as the CMS goes, accomplish all the specific mission phases. We did the same thing in the rendezvous simulator, and I think this plan, I'd recommend this plan for other
Yeah, they
flights.
monitored what we hadn't done and what,
Because
make sure we didn't forget something.
We've
Here's
been
a-
doing that to right along.
when we went over there, their approach was, well, what do you want to do? And we came back and said, well, if we knew what we wanted to do, we wouldn't be here. You tell us what you think we need. And they developed this approach, and I'd recommend this.
Okay, well, you got a baseline training plan. It's all its details laid in on, and I think what you're saying is we need to be a little more, instructors need to be a little more aggressive in telling you on a specific day, let's do this, rather than leaving it up to you.
That's right.
Eventually, we get around to that, and all the squares, but it may not come
You going over to the doctor?
good sequence.
No, they keep track of things, and they say, all right, you've done 42,000, mode 2s, but no mode 1s.
Mhm.
And
I guess there comes a time though when you got to figure out what you think you're really not sufficient in.
well,
Yeah.
this is,
There you
of
go.
course, in the latter mission phases, where you come down and they say, well, now you're getting pretty well near the end, and they'll give you a choice of, you say, well, I'd like to run some more timeline work and things like this.
Okay. Well, I thought training was very good this time.
I did
think-
too.
Well, I think we went through it a couple times. I think we got down pretty fast.
Well, I think if it wasn't good, I don't think we'd have been able to switch like we did.
Yeah, maybe that extra month in there was well worth it then.
We had time to get all the squares filled this time.
Got a good training coordinator.
I'll tell you though, that training is a bottomless pit. You give an extra month and you think you're all set to go, and boy, before you know it, every day that extra month is taken up. And LLTV took up an awful lot of time. And if it wasn't for the slip, I don't think we'd have got that in. Human factors, 21.
preventive medical procedures.
I'm not gonna say a word.
The backup CMP had measles previously, which was a preventive.
Preventative medicine.
I thought everything was adequate there. Medical care.
Okay.
Time for exercise. This is a complaint, and I guess, I really don't know what to say about it. After you run an EVA all day, you don't feel like you do any exercise.
Don't need to.
Yeah. But boy, you sure do if you're in that simulator all the time. And we found ourselves, I had a hard time getting Ken to, to settle down, to come back and to come back to rest and sleep and things like that. But I really don't know what to say to do differently.
So you just got to keep working at it.
Yeah.
So you got to work a little too hard on just slow them down.
I guess if you have to, when you really plan the training, you're going to have to say, okay, if it wasn't for the fact that we switched in the last 2 days, those last 2 days would have been free.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have done anything. Having to switch, though, it made us do extra work. And otherwise, that I think is not good. Medical briefings are adequate. Eating habits and amount of food consumption. I think that we're taking a practical viewpoint towards pre-flight eating, and I don't think we got any problem with you.
The only thing down there, Lou wants to feed you like he thinks you're starving to death. Now, you've been down there, you know exactly what I'm saying. I don't need that amount of food, and so as a result, I found myself not eating there that much because I just can't take that amount of food.
Well, I guess
It's
maybe
available to you and you eat what you want.
I guess if we were a little bit stronger, we could probably prevail on Lou to cut down on the food. Maybe I should have, pitched in stronger and told him to knock off feeding us like that, and to cut down on the amount of food. So.
Yeah, but I think there again, that's an individual preference thing, and you're just cooking it up, and if it's palatable, it's up to you to decide how much of it you want.
Except that I don't have any willpower. Yes. I will eat everything on my plate, whether it's that much or whether it's that much, That's it.
That's why you got to cut it off before he serves it to you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about food?
Food at the cave.
Yeah, Jack mentioned
Oh.
You know, one of Lou's chickens, which is about that much on the plate.
Okay, well, we could do that if we thought it was necessary.
Well, it is an individual thing, but it's like if you were going to feed Jack Lousma, you're in great shape putting that amount of food out there. But I don't know, it was a little too much for me.
Okay.
Look at 21.1, Fred. You got any comments?
Well, I guess our training schedule didn't really allow a heck of a lot of time for exercise. That was one item that kind of slipped by the board for me that I normally did a little more regular than I was doing there about the last 6 weeks.
EVAs didn't give you no exercise.
No, not the right kind. Yeah, other than that, I would approach the last item there a lot differently if I'd have known the way this mission was going to turn out. If I'd have known it was going to be a less than 6-day mission, I would have gone the route of low bulk, and I'd have cavitated the whole system back to the tummy as best I could with enemas and everything else. And I think we could have probably got by the whole time without ever having to worry about it.
You would not have been a space veteran.
I know, but as it was, I went 3 times in 5 days.
3 times space veteran. I think that's great.
And it's a terrible inconvenience. And Jack did the same, and I think that was just because we sort of continued to eat, normally right up. And you surely with a 10-day mission, I don't think you're going to avoid the issue. You're going to get caught no matter
Well, that's the way I kind of felt. Beforehand, I'd gone through this low residue, clean yourself out thoroughly routine, and on 8 I lasted the entire flight without going. And I thought to myself, one of these days we're going to have to face facts that, you just can't last 28 days or 56 days without going ahead. You might as well just start living normally again.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did.
Yeah.
The
We all
voyage
did.
lasted pretty good.
Well, I went once,
Yeah. But you had to be a space veteran.
about 2 minutes after the accident.
That's what happened to these other seas.
Okay, flight.
Okay.
Well, let's see. First, hunger sensations. The first day I didn't have much of an appetite. And like I said, the next morning I had that bit of upset. And then the very next meal from there on, I started eating everything there was in every meal and biting into the snack locker besides.
One thing that was apparent here, that we were given no meal A on the first day, but we were given meal B and C on the first day. And of course our launch wasn't until 2 in the afternoon, which was after meal B.
And we also had a snack stuffed in our pockets.
Yeah.
Snacks stuff in there. So as a result, none of us ate either meal B or C on the first day.
But we ate the snack for the first
We
day.
ate the snack. And we started off on the second day and for regular, and this is Fredo's here. And you can see we kept log every time we ate everything.
Right.
I kept a log of it.
I've got one general comment on the overall food. I have no comments on what food we ate. I thought it was good. I thought that the wet packs are a step in the right direction. The bread was good. The spreads were better, and some of the stuff was a little difficult to handle. Some of the spreads dried out a little bit. Then they got water. You know, the water and the
Water went to the top.
yeah, and it separated. So it made it hard to spread because it was hard and the water floated. But that stuff we could all work out. But I think that the packing of that material, the packing of the food is too compact. You pull out one thing and a whole bunch of stuff comes out. And I think we have room enough on the command module that we can devote a little bit more space to LEM food stowage now. Or, I mean, command module food stowage.
Just the overall packaging is too dense.
Yeah, I mean, they really pack it in there, and you look at it at the bench check, and that stuff is really packed in there, and they must spend an awful lot of time packing it, so that's great, except that you get up in 0G, and you reach in to get one thing, and you pull out a bunch of stuff, and boy, it's hard to get back in, and each bread slice is not vacuum packed.
Coming in and ricocheting.
Yeah, that stuff is all over the place. And the bread packages, the slice packages expand because the pressure goes down. And you know, when they pack them in there, it's 14.7 in, and there's 5, and then you never get the stuff back in. So,
But each package, each meal, complete meal that's in a package by itself is on a string. So that's okay.
That's okay.
It's the individual.
So part of their philosophy, I think, they make you eat more, is that you can't get it back in, you gotta do something with it, so you eat it.
yeah, it seemed to me we could have packaged the packaging of the food now, because I know we do have room now in the command module. Obviously, there's room in the command module to be a little bit better packaging. We could devote another little spot down there for something else.
Something that's, the orange juice itself was much better than the orange drink. I'd recommend using the.
Yeah, we had orange juice this time,
Yeah.
and
And it
it
was-
was bitter.
No, I'll tell you, those juice drinks really saved us. We used all those up. In fact, we were even into the meals getting out the juices at the last, because we of course, had a shortage of water.
Let's see, I had a comment on the pantry thing. The cable route to your THC interfered with the rear door of that pantry coming up, and I had to be real careful. The front, actually, the more forward door. I had to be real careful when I raise that, to not ding that translation head controller cable. And I don't know if that's peculiar. I had noted that ever before, mock up. I don't know if it's peculiar to this spacecraft or what.
No, I think the routing of the THC cable is pretty much standard, so I think you're going to find that there is a degree of interference there. But you're right, it did, the door did hit the cable about, after you raised it open about 60 degrees. It didn't go the full 90 degrees out.
Okay. Any other items here under
Well, the food waste stowage,
Scanning through this thing.
is, we use one temporary stowage bag for the food waste stowage, and it's the same old thing. The amount of trash really piles up in a hurry, and you have to keep ahead of it. And we were keeping ahead of it up until the time of the accident.
We didn't even do bad after that.
No.
We got one of the lemon
Got a little
jettison-
jet bag out. Which is about like Santa Claus's bag. And
Just kept stuff and stuff in there.
we did all at once had trash bags that would.
I was
Three
kind of
those
thinking that, of course, if we can jettison that stuff in limbs and get rid of it, that's fine. But if we had a little bit more room on our food stowage area, we could replace the food we use with the debris that's left over and use that as a stowage spot. But we couldn't do that adequately in what we had, the way it's packaged now. It's just packaged too tight, and once you get that stuff out again, you just can't put it back into where it came from. And it seemed to me like that could be much more efficient.
The bread slices needed a little patch of Velcro on them too. They didn't. It was the one food item that I know of that did not have a piece of Velcro on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Did the wet packs have Velcro?
Yeah, the wet packs had Velcro.
Okay.
Water.
The one associated wet pack item you may have noted did not, though, was the ketchup and the.
Yes, that
Those are so small.
Yeah.
I have no more comments on the food. Does anybody else have any comments?
Except we had one emergency on limb you didn't know about. I left Jack down there to go back upstairs momentarily, left him holding my wet pack frankfurters.
I was on the comm.
And I came back, and he's holding an empty sack. And two of my
You went up to get
frankfurters
a bolts and amps reading, and
Are
you said,
loosening
"Here, hold
down."
my frankfurters." And I was saying, "You're holding them." And he came back, and I said, "Fredo, got an emergency here." I squeezed too hard, and I drifted off someplace. I said, "Check around for two loose frankfurters," and that broke Fredo up for about 5 minutes. And you found them finally someplace.
Netting in the back.
How do they taste?
Good.
I was still holding that empty package when he came back. We had a few laughs in spite of.
I thought you'd eaten them, that's why I was mad.
You just can't trust these CMPs when you leave them in charge of the lab, can you?
Spoon bowl packages, they worked all pretty good.
That's a step in the right direction. That
Yeah.
really does work nice.
Okay, water?
I have no comments. We chlorinated the water, and we didn't taste it. At least I didn't taste it. There was a little gas in the water in the beginning.
Well, there was gas in the water all the way through in the command module potable water.
Well, the water was hot, and the hot water worked fine, and the food, the food preparation water, there was no problems there. And the blood gun was cold. It was good.
You know, something that we all commented on is that none of us noted the next morning a taste of chlorine in the water after.
That's right, yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, we never
I'd
tasted
always heard people complain about the command module water, and
Scotty would like to talk to you, please.
I thought it really tasted great. It's almost as if Jim hadn't chlorinated it, even though I'd watched him do it.
And but there was always a measure of gas in all the juice bags when we filled them up, right till the very end.
Yeah.
Even when the fuel cells weren't working, you know. There's always gas in the water.
I don't know what we're gonna do to get around this.
No, I don't know. You probably have a comparison between. We got the hydrogen gas separator on this thing now. You probably have a comparison between the 8 potable water and the 13 potable water. Do you think there was more gas or less gas?
About the same.
About the same.
There was gas in those. The way you can really tell is those juice bags. You get that water in there, and it makes it difficult to drink that stuff because you're drinking air or gas and juice. Yeah, I just happened to think. Do you ever get a voice level on this stuff?
Yeah, it's okay.
Is it okay? Okay, intensity of thirst during mission, got a little thirsty there towards the end.
Yes.
That's only because we ran out.
Ran out of potable, command module potable water.
I guess we have to talk about the work, rest, sleep cycle before the incident and after.
Yeah.
After we've already discussed, the coldness and everything like that.
Well, prior to the first night, I didn't sleep as well as I did the second night. I guess it's just a matter of getting oriented, used to sleeping in 0G. Second night, I had a good night's sleep.
Yep, well, the same. In fact, I guess I slept the first night in the couch. And a recommendation I'd have is that all I did was sit up in the couch and fasten my lap belt. And I had a feeling that I was rocking up and down all night. And I don't know if this attributed to that severe headache I woke up with in the morning or not, but if I had to do it over again, I think I'd also bring the shoulder harnesses down and latch myself in all the way.
Did you wear your comm carrier?
Yes.
Okay, the first night I think that we had set it up to wear the comm carrier. I don't think I would recommend that again with the audible tone there, that warning tone. I think we could have taken off the comm carriers. And then we had
I'm sorry, I did not wear a comm carrier. I had a lightweight headset.
Well, I mean, you had communication.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the switch and S-band antenna, the Omni antenna will tend to wake you up. And then we had the third sleep restraint, which I didn't even know we had aboard.
Yeah.
But don't you think the quality of sleep positions underneath the couches is a better sleep position than on top of the couch?
Yeah.
Well, mainly because the sleep restraints keep you in position.
That's right. I agree.
Yeah. And maybe we ought to think about rigging up a sleep restraint the same way on the couch.
I suspect there is places down in the LEB that you could tie this to without any problems. G&N handhold for one.
And they get 3 good sleeping positions. We're talking about sleeping, you know, generally I guess I slept up on the couch the second night and I didn't get as good enough sleep as I did the first night. And 2 reasons. Number one is we got a master alarm about the time I was just falling asleep, and it really jumped me out of the couch.
And we never did find out what that was.
No, and then second of all, the hose that was routed right down by my side, and it was blowing cool air on me all night, and that distracted me.
Okay.
And we discussed the sleep after the accident, so we won't discuss that. Exercise.
Okay, my exercise, I did periods of exercise inside while I was on the left seat there, where I did kind of push-ups using the feet against the LEB and my hands on the one bulkhead and one on the strut. And I did measure my pulse, and I got it up over 80, approximately 85 or 84, I think. I did that.
You could be doing that all day, Jack, and you know, it doesn't.
Yeah.
We really didn't get
didn't
that.
do it.
We didn't really.
I was
do
playing
that.
those same games when I found out how to make the thruster noise. In fact, that was how I got my foot down on the pad on the bulkhead and pointed it out.
We could have done more exercise. I think once we got in the routine. But the first day you want to go very slow. Do you agree now? The first day you got to get used to or do you have other thoughts?
I think, as far as going slow, I think that's an individual thing. I didn't have any problem. I had a fullness of the head, which is the same as Fred had, but I had no symptoms of nausea or motion constraints which would require me to go slow.
But it took us longer to get rid of the suits than now,
Yes,
and we
yes.
didn't talk about that. But the flight plan did not give us enough time to adequately doff the suits and stow them.
That
That's
is
the point we ought to put
a
in.
recommendation.
Yeah.
We all felt that.
We ended up one man short, really. I guess you
Well,
got hung on.
That's right. I didn't get my suit off until after the P-52. I did my P-52 with the suit on, and
Well, there's some P-20, was it P-23s?
P-23s, I guess.
Yeah. And so, there was one area where the flight plan did not give us enough time. Suit doffing takes a lot longer. It's easy. 0G makes it easier than a 1G. But it takes a lot longer to be very careful about stowing your suit
That was
and all the little incidentals that go with doffing the suit. Like taking all the gear out of there and getting your in-flight coveralls and getting the comm rigged up correctly and all that sort of stuff. Okay, in-flight oral hygiene, toothbrush, toothpaste was adequate. Any other comments?
No, and we follow that, again, we follow that routine only up to the incident. From there on, we live like Marines.
Very seldom did I use sunglasses. I think I used them one time.
I never did.
I never did also.
The only unusual or unexpected visual phenomena was the one we already mentioned concerning the
Flashes.
flashes and periods of darkness with their eyes closed. Never had any disorientation with respect to the outside. Once we got hold of the body, we could tell where we were. It was always sort of disoriented when you go from the limb to the command module, trying to figure out your way.
Not gonna make it right, Lloyd. Might as well stop right here.